Howdy, y'all, and welcome to Liberty Libations number 33. My name is Jake Green. Thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. I've got Mr. Stephen Hilton and Mr. Zane Placie with me. How are y'all doing?
Great.
Doing well.
Yeah. Got to reach behind camera to get my water.
Lame.
Living on the edge. All right.
The best kind of libation. Hey, if I drink during the show, then there's no way in hell that I'm going to edit clips after the show. I'm going to play my Switch and I'm going to go to bed. That's just kind of how it goes for me. So no drinking during the show is it's kind of contradictory to the name of the show, but it is what it is. It's the only way that this show is going to ever gain traction in the real world. All right, y'all. How are y'all doing? I mean, it's been a while since we've actually had like a good setup and everything under control, and at least on my end. I tend to be running around quite a bit. So sad that Alden is not going to be here tonight. Sad that Nick is not going to be here tonight. Nick has nerd meeting, and Alden is finally made it to Tennessee tonight.
Nice.
So he will be he'll be tuning in from Tennessee from here on out, or logging in from Tennessee. So that's pretty sweet. Before we get started, if anybody finds this entertaining, I mean, the beginning has not been entertaining, but if anybody finds the rest of it entertaining, make sure you go to lpgeorgia.com. We have a ton of resources to learn about libertarianism, liberty, freedom, all sorts of stuff. We also have here, I can just pull it up since most people watch this show. I have so many things pulled up, and the one thing I didn't have pulled up was this. lpgeorgia.com. We have things like Brushfire speaking course where you can learn to be a better public speaker. I think everybody on this podcast needs that dramatically.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
We also have a range day coming up with Osprey Shooting Solutions. It will be Saturday, July 29th, down in Rome, Georgia. It's hosted by Edgar Mills, who's a friend of the party. It's from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. We did this last year, and I think everybody had a great time. People learned a lot. There were people there who weren't libertarians. They just knew about the event. And I think everybody had a fantastic time. Did either of y'all go to that last year?
I didn't make it last year.
Zane?
I wasn't able to go. Was hoping to be able to go this year, but unfortunately, I've got my sister's graduation party that day, so don't want to say it's unfortunate that I have to go to that, but it's unfortunate that they're on the same day.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. And Robert, I'm in Montana, so it's definitely down in Rome. It's not up. Thank you for the comment, though. I appreciate it. All right, let's see if I think it has. I finally was able to get the main topic of the show online. It's a very frustrating experience when. Here we go. Let's see. Hang on, y'all. Okay, so main topic of the show tonight was Joe Rogan spreads misinformation, which, to be fair, we love Joe Rogan, or at least I do. I like a lot of the guests that he has on. This isn't really an indictment of him as a whole. It's more of his ridiculous stance on economics. So take a listen here, and we'll discuss this. Echo. Stop. That was my dog. Come on.
Yeah, a trillion.
There we go.
Yeah. It's a trillion plus. Yeah, it's a lot, dude. It's a lot. And so how much have we spent on Ukraine, and how much are we going to spend on Ukraine? But here's the thing. Like, if you forgave that debt, wouldn't that spark the economy? Wouldn't, like, if people have more money, the thing about when people have more money, people spend more money. When people spend more money, the economy does better. If people are straddled with student loan debt, I got to think that somehow or another cripples the economy.
I don't think you're wrong in theory about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it would seem that, like, you'd obviously have more to do.
Yeah.
You could do more with your money.
And it's not like you're giving people money. You're just absolving them of debt.
Okay. So he's taken this stance so many times, and I finally just was like, I got to record it because this is ridiculous. Zane, can you tell the people why that's a ridiculous stance?
So when I first saw that this was the headline fact of the show, I thought, what absolutely based thing has he said to Dr. Peter Hotez this time? So I thought we were all going to come on here and talk about again how Joe Rogan is so great, but I guess nobody's perfect.
No one's perfect.
So,
he's great in every other way almost, but not this one.
Yeah, so there is no conceptual difference between giving somebody money and forgiving them a debt. Because if I owe Jake $50, and he says that you don't have to pay me back, that's pretty much the same as him giving me $50 and then me giving it back to him to pay off the debt. But I owed him the debt and he didn't have to give me the $50 to pay it off. So that there really is no conceptual distinction between those two things. And so when we talk about let's just forgive all this debt, it's just numbers on a piece of paper. Well, the fact is that somebody had to pay the teachers and the university where all these people got degrees. And maybe these people were led to believe that the degrees that they were getting were a lot more valuable than they really are. I would say that a lot of people have been told by their guidance counselors that they should go to college when really they should not, because that's not going to do anything good for them in the long run. There are lots of very productive things that you can do without going to college. It's not for everyone. So I'm not saying that it's these people's fault that they find themselves in tens of thousands of dollars in debt, but the fact that they did go to college, that consumed real resources. The money it takes to pay the teachers, to pay for their room and board. So if they're not paying for it, then somebody else is. Mm-hmm. And just, handing them out the money to forgive their debt, that's going to make somebody else have to not consume as much. So the idea that we're going to spark the economy by giving these people money, I mean, why not give everybody $1 million? How about that?
Yeah, then there was absolutely nothing wrong with the $1,200 everybody got during COVID. Like, it's absolutely absurd to think that forgiving debt is any different than just giving out money. Like, Tom Segura actually kind of pushes back on Rogan in a little bit of it later on, but there's so much bullcrap in between that I didn't want to spend 5 minutes listening to it. So,
well, it's real easy to advocate, forgiving debt, giving away money, all this kind of charity when you're sitting on a $100 million contract. It's just real simple to say those kind of things. Like Tyler Perry, you're in Atlanta. He's one of those that's real big on that. Let's just forgive student loan debt and give people a house. Okay, Mr. Perry, go ahead and do it, man.
Yeah,
what's stopping you from writing a check?
Darn right. Yeah,
why do you need more than my money for that? You have plenty.
I mean, how many times have people asked Bernie Sanders to sell one of his houses and give the money to the homeless? Like, so many times, and he won't do it. Like, these people don't actually believe in any of this stuff. Like, Rogan's not out there giving away all of his money to forgive student debt. We're all going to pay for it in one way, shape, or form, and it's going to be through inflation. I think they counted out that it was like $1.6 trillion of student loan debt that's public, and like 10% of the 1.75 trillion is privately owned. So the government owns like 1.6 trillion in college student loan debt, which is
So the exact mechanics of how this would work if you did forgive the debt would be all of a sudden, the government has 1.6 trillion in loan repayments that they're counting on. And if all of a sudden they don't get that, now they have to get the $1.6 trillion somewhere else. And it's going to be either from the taxpayer or from the money printer, because they're definitely not going to cut any spending. We know that for sure. So,
yeah.
I mean, this goes all the way back to, the broken window fallacy that was introduced by Frederick Bastiat all the way back in the 19th century, where it's sometimes if you didn't really think through the economics of what was going on, you might think that if a kid goes and breaks a window, that was somehow good for the economy, because then the shop owner whose window was broken would have to go buy a new window from the glazier, and then the glazier would get so much more business, and then they would be able to go and buy stuff, and it would be great. But what really happened is that you had a window and now you don't. So now you have to buy something to only to replace what you already had. And
well, I now understand. Sorry, go ahead.
If the window did not have to be replaced, instead of having to buy another window, the shop owner could, buy something else. They could buy, jewelry for their wife. They could buy a new bookshelf. They could go on a trip, and it would be the exact amount of overall stimulation of the economy that would have happened before. And I know I've been talking a lot, but the last thing main point that I'll make is that, just the total amount of consumer spending by itself is not how we should think about an economy that's doing well, like Joe Rogan seems to think. Because what we really need for a booming economy is lots of investment in capital goods, like factories and research. So like you could buy a bunch of individual TVs, and we could all have lots of TVs now. Or instead of doing that, we could invest money into building a TV factory. And 5 years from now, we could have twice as many TVs as we did if we hadn't built the factory. So judging economic strength just by consumer spending is really fallacious.
I like that a lot. Fallacious sounds like a terrible word.
Sounds like a nice little pastime.
And I think another thing that Rogan always or never mentions, I mean, he might not even know it, is that the government started guaranteeing these loans. Like they started guaranteeing what kids would pay for college. And so once that started happening, ever since then, the cost of going to college has skyrocketed because the colleges know that the government will back them up no matter what, so they can charge whatever they want. And if a student can't pay it, well, it goes to the government. It doesn't fall back on the university. So that's kind of that's the origin of this whole problem. That and thinking you need to go to college to make a living. Like it's just.
Well, hold on. My graduate degree in underwater basket weaving is going to pay off one day.
It might when there's global warming and the ice caps melt and we're all underwater. It probably will.
That's right. That's when you'll need a basket. Holla at your boy.
Oh, man.
The goofiest thing about it, that forgiving student loans is really the government subsidizing its own propaganda machine. Because what happens is all these colleges know that they can increase the price of their tuition because all the loans are backed up. So they can go and absolutely balloon the amount of administrators and useless professorships that they have. Mm-hmm. So if you go and major in something like political science or one of the various, humanities that have just gone completely off the rails, you learn nothing in those classes except various flavors of Marxism. So for the government to then turn around and be like, actually, no, you don't have to pay for that. It's actually genius from the perspective of the government bureaucrats.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right, but I don't even think they could understand that complexity. Like, there's no way they're that genius. They just happened upon this whole thing, and they're just trying to clean up a mess that was before them. What the? Sorry, did it start playing audio? Man.
No.
Okay. On my end, all of a sudden, one of the tabs started playing audio. My bad. Anyway, Zane, perfect explanations. Exactly what I was thinking. It infuriates me every time he brings up this forgive student loan crap, because he is the most watched podcaster in the world, and it just drives me nuts that he won't study economics. Just study economics, man. Just go read a book. Like, he reads so many books. Go read a book on economics. It's just really not that difficult. Anything else on this?
Economics in one lesson.
If only. Can we just repeatedly send that to him like every single day for like 3 years and see if he'll actually read it? just somebody new, send it to his studio or whatever, which once a day, just piling up economics in one lesson, and we'll see if he
show up at the comedy mothership and just drop off 1,000 copies of Economics in Lesson. I'm pretty sure the Mises Institute could set us up.
You know, I'm going to be there later this year. Maybe that's something we should do. We should have that set up. Just drop it off at every single seat and then throw it in the ticket booth, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? You have anything else to say on this topic? I know that was our primary topic, but it wasn't.
Well, it's just if you think the tuition and the fees and all that stuff are going through the roof with government subsidies, just wait until BlackRock starts buying up the dorm rooms, because they're already doing it.
Whoa! Expand on that.
So BlackRock is going to start buying the dorm rooms, and so they're going to get government subsidies to own student dorms, but then it's going to be privately owned, so then government can't really regulate conditions or rent agreements or anything like that. So it's going to get really interesting.
Interesting. That is interesting. Yeah. I didn't know this. Brian Allen says Mises University is coming up this month. I had no idea. I had no idea that was happening. Is this like what's that super based university in South America that Gloria Alvarez went to? I forget what it's called. It's named after a priest, and it's kind of just hidden as a super based it's really based on economics and like true sound Austrian economics, and it's pretty genius.
Yeah, what Mises University is it's a program for undergraduates put on by the Mises Institute every summer for a week. And had I been introduced to Austrian economics a year or two earlier, I very well may have gone to it. But it took me until my junior or senior year before I got truly radicalized in this stuff. So there
you go.
There's an idea.
There's an idea. I had a question and now I can't remember it. Oh, you should go teach at the Mises University.
No,
Zane.
They have doctorates who teach there. I mean, there are a lot of scholars that know this backwards and forwards way better than I do. It's just that as far as lay people go, I guess I'm one of the more knowledgeable ones on economics, but only because I've listened to lots of episodes of the Bob Murphy Show.
Okay. If you can sit through that many episodes, that's impressive in and of itself. I'm just kidding, Bob. All right. Let's go on to our next story, which is straight out of Atlanta. This is wonderful.
And convenience stores in Metro Atlanta are often easy targets for crime. So to address this issue and to keep a lot of folks safe out there, the Atlanta City Council members, they want to require surveillance cameras at these locations. So the video surveillance ordinance passed by the City Council's Public Safety Committee yesterday, it would require all gas stations and convenience stores, any convenience stores, to install commercial-grade cameras at each of those gas pumps. So before being implemented, it must first gain approval from Georgia's General Assembly. No city or county government can actually pass a regulation like that, requiring a company to take on those new costs. City Council member Keisha Waite says that she's not sure if financial aid will be given to those business owners who needed to get those cameras up, but she's hopeful. The City Council member Waits also says the video surveillance ordinance will be presented to the full council on August 7th. If passed, it will move to the General Assembly.
So I got a couple of questions here. Who's going to forgive this camera debt? And then second off, what is a commercial grade camera?
What is that's a great question. I have no idea.
How do they define that? Like, is it, thermal scanning? Yeah. Does it have facial recognition software in it? Is it just a certain megapixel in range? That's pretty vague stuff.
It's very vague, and it's strange that they're going to require it without providing it. You'd think, because when I first heard this, I thought they would provide it because I thought it would be a facial recognition camera, because that's what they are tending to put almost everywhere these days. So that confused me, that they're requiring businesses to have a security camera at every single gas pump, because that's where some crime happens. What?
Well, in DeKalb County, was it yesterday or earlier this week, there was a guy that got shot to death. right there in the middle of the pump islands, and they're putting a sheet over the body, loading them up in the hearse, and everybody's just going about their business like nothing's wrong.
Jeez, that's not a
another
good
day in DeKalb
comment on
County, I guess.
society, right?
Yeah.
That's not great.
There was another video from a few. I guess I don't know how long ago it was recorded, but I saw it a few weeks ago of a bunch of people trying to rob somebody at the gas station, and then he just takes the nozzle out of the car and starts spraying the thieves with gas, and then they run away.
Yeah, I did see that. They pulled up on him and parked right in front of his vehicle, and like 4 of them get out, and he just starts spraying them with the gasoline.
Now you got to pull out a torch. Step closer.
Yeah, I mean, it was genius. It was the best. It was the best, like, quick thinking defense I've ever seen, like in a compromised setting. I've always thought that, because like with the Tesla, you're plugged in for like 45 minutes. So you're just sitting in the car waiting for your thing to charge, and you have no escape. It takes like 3 or 4 seconds for that thing to actually come out of the Tesla, and then you have to get back in the car. It's not, you can't just, I mean, I guess you could just speed off in an emergency. No, it won't let you. It won't let you put it in drive and speed off like you can in a gas car. So are they going to do this with all the Tesla stops too? The electric car stops?
Exactly. Well, and then who's monitoring the cameras? Is this the duty of the gas station, or is City of Atlanta asking to be tapped into these things?
They don't want to prevent it. They just want to be able to catch them afterwards. They want the crime to still take place, but they want to be able to catch them. So they'll just go get the feed later on, see who did it, and then go arrest the guy.
Right. Because just having a camera there stops a bunch of people.
Oh yeah. There's almost no more crime because of all the cameras that are everywhere.
And if it's that rough of an area, someone thinks there's copper inside of it, that thing is gone.
Would there be copper inside it?
All you got to do is tell somebody. That's how I know around Griffin, in Spalding County, that's how a lot of the red light cameras got taken out.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Copper wire in them?
Yeah, there's a copper wire going all the way up that thing, and they would rip it out once a week.
I mean, I've got like miles of copper wire in this van. I should probably be careful.
It doesn't even get that much money, but some guys will do anything for a buck.
Yeah. Robert says London is crime free because of all their cameras.
There you go. Well, and apparently Noonan, Georgia has more crime per capita than New York City.
What?
Yeah, but the key thing here is a lot of these big, metropolitan liberal areas all over the country, New York City, San Francisco, Oakland, California, Seattle, they just let you steal stuff from the store now. Unless you're stealing something up to $1,000, it's a slap on the wrist. It's a citation.
Yep.
And
you get in trouble if you try to stop them.
Exactly. Because that's why. So there's a lot of store owners like around San Francisco that they've just had to put everything on the store shelves at least $1,000 price.
That's genius.
That's
one way to do it.
Yeah, he stole a pack of gum. It was $1,005.
I know that RFK was just there campaigning, and he was just walking around and pointing. That store's closed. That store's closed. That store's closed. That store, like all of these stores were shut down, and they were like big department stores. It was like Macy's and stuff like that.
Oh, there was like entire blocks on Long Island. That just no business. They never reopened for COVID.
These cities spent years begging these stores to come into these particular areas and complaining about food deserts and how nobody can buy good food and how it's so racist that none of these stores want to come to these areas. And then these stores finally come, and then they're like, oh yeah, people steal all your stuff. We're not going to do anything about it. And then they're leaving, and then they're still complaining that they're leaving. So you can't win for losing.
That's brutal. Yeah, it makes no sense. Like, in what world can you make stealing $900 worth of stuff okay?
Right.
Like, I don't understand how that goes through somebody's head. They have to be so indoctrinated into like some type of woke ideology that is allowable. Like some type of like racial base for everything. I don't understand it, but it's bizarre.
It really is. And, Rooftop Korean is rolling over in his grave right now, I'm sure. God rest his soul, by the way. We lost him this week.
Grumpy says a lady at Lowe's in Rincon was fired for stopping a shoplifter. It's absurd. It makes no sense. Like, why even have a security guard? Why have anybody work there? Why not just have the automated teller machines or automated cashier machines and have people just do the honor system? You pay or you don't. It doesn't matter.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. $900 will be worth nothing before we know it.
So it's a leading indicator that the dollar's about to be not worth anything.
Hannah says they're just trying to feed their families, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
No one would forgive their student loan debt, so we got to give them lumber and groceries.
Yeah, and
all
TV.
of these families that can be fed with nothing but nail polish and luxury electronics.
Exactly. Robert
They have
says
an
it's 18 eggs
acetone-based
worth
diet.
$900. Oh man, that reminds me of a Sunny clip. I wish I could find it real quick. If Zach was actually producing this episode and not off at a Blink 182 concert, he could find the clip for me because it was pretty hysterical. All right, speaking of the dollar being worth nothing, let's go to this story. The White House has ordered the selected reserve and certain members of the individual ready reserve of the armed forces to active duty. I believe they're being sent overseas as well. So it's not just active duty here in the United States. They're being sent overseas to, in an active duty state, which does not bode well for basically anybody on Earth.
Well, and some general was just talking this week about going to war with China.
What, a general who's in charge of stuff?
Yeah. To say that, we'll be at war with China sometime soon. And it's like, okay, so we're going to fight Russia and China simultaneously.
I think people just are told something and then feel like it's inevitable. And so they're just like, yeah, it's going to happen. So we might as well just go that direction. It's bound to happen eventually. I feel like war with China is completely avoidable.
Well, we've been in proxy financial type wars with them for at least 20 years.
Yeah.
For God's sakes, Mitt Romney was campaigning on this when he was running for president.
Yeah.
And this was back before, I guess he still had a little bit of a soul left, when he was just stepping out of Bain Capital.
Wait, he had a soul? No one told me that.
Right.
Didn't know that.
But he was still somewhat tied to his Bain Capital role, so he still cared about the dollar velocity. And that was his big thing, was that we were going to be in a financial war with China. And of course, now he's totally changed his tune, which is odd. But like the rare earth minerals, for instance, you talk about TV factories. Okay, so TVs, electronics, computers, all those kind of things. I forget the name of the two elements now. I think it's like gallium and one other. Cobalt, obviously cobalt, but lithium for one. China controls 90% of the world's supply of these things.
Oh yeah,
and they've announced they're cutting off our supply. Oh, and so
that's fun for us.
Yeah, this hot war with China is because they're flexing on Taiwan. Taiwan is the source of our computer chips until we get our factories online. I don't know if that was just bluster, but that was one of the things that Biden threw some money at.
Are we trying to do that? Are we trying to start up chip factories here? Is that a thing?
Yeah, there was a big one in Arizona, and then there was one other. And these two plants, they were going to take 2 to 3 years to build, and then within 5 years, they were going to have us totally chip independent. Kind of. That's how it was sold, anyways. Which
is this
probably
true?
totally false.
Is this true? What Robert said? China is printing forever stamps and selling them for 9 cents each. Because that's pretty hilarious. That is genius. Let's see. Brian says if Tom Cruise in an F-16 started World War III, that might be acceptable. Well, there are worse ways to start a war. That'd be at least an entertaining one. Let's see. Grumpy says we need to defend the guard passed. You're darn right we do.
Yeah, but Georgia is a little different because we have our own defense force here. We've got a volunteer Georgia Defense Force that answers directly to the governor. That swears their oath to the Georgia Constitution, not the U.S. Constitution. because back in the 80s, the GBI actually thought they were a terrorist insurgency. They were a little concerned with this organization, this domestic militia being formed at a state level, because really the governor could just say screw you and defend his own borders.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like the whole idea of entertaining a war with China seems like the stupidest possible thing we could do. Like, what do you think about Trump? I mean, who all said it so far? Trump, RFK, Vivek, maybe a couple others in the race have said that on day one, within 24 hours, they will end the war in Ukraine. What are y'all thoughts on that?
That's one that, unlike Afghanistan, where pulling out, leaving a vacuum was a total farce. Let that place implode. People that want to come here, come on, and just get out. Unless it really comes out that we're there to defend our biolabs that we took over after the fall of the Soviet Union.
Right. I mean, the most interesting thing I think with like ending the war in Ukraine is, I think Dave Smith said it the other day, is like the one big bargaining chip that I think Putin would take is that if we withdrew from NATO. I think if we withdrew from NATO, that might be a bargaining chip for having peace between Russia and Ukraine. What do you think about that?
NATO's existence is an act of war against Russia. Sorry, Zane, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, if we withdrew from NATO, we might save so much money that we could forgive everybody's student loans.
And yeah, okay, Matt's right. He didn't say within 24 hours. Vivek just said he has a plan to end it. But Trump is more brazen. He said he'd end it within 24 hours. Let's see. Grumpy says, "Stop sending money and weapons to Ukraine. The war would end instantly." Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be a full-on victory for Russia, without a doubt. Which what are you gonna do? All right, y'all. Do we have anything else? Do we have anything? Actually, we got way off track. We started talking about us sending troops to Europe.
We were perfectly on track.
Yeah,
what else would this be about if it wasn't about Ukraine?
Fair. I mean, we went through China and all that for quite a while, and we never actually talked about the troops. Like,
so are they being stop-lossed as well, or is this just like the actual active duty people?
I don't know, man.
And I didn't figure out about that concept until that Channing Tatum movie, Stop Loss. That was something that apparently happened, during the Bush years.
Yeah.
That, when we went to war with Iraq, there were people that already had their discharge papers that got a phone call and were like, "Hey, yeah, we gave you the discharge papers, but you're being called back."
Yep. Well, y'all, it's time. Time for some trivia. All right. For anybody who hasn't played, hang on. Let me bring up the slide. Here we go. Add to stream. Libations trivia 7/13/23. Improbable mission. The JRE and Oppenheimer are the categories. Rules: 3 rounds. 10 questions in the first, 5 questions in the second, 3 questions in the third. Every question is a free-for-all. The first contestant to cover their camera with their hand will be called on by Jake to answer the question. If you blurt out the answer when it's not your turn, you lose a daggone point. Oh, yeah. This is back. If a contestant answers, you cannot get another answer until all contestants answer. Winner.
You're a bit quiet there, Jake.
Yeah, you cut out.
Is this better?
Hey, there you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe talking into the mic would help things. All right.
There's a brush fryer speaking course for that coming up soon.
For talking into the mic. There's a whole 30-minute thing about talking into the mic. I wasn't here when Zach ran trivia. Who won that night? Should I even ask? Was it Zane?
I wasn't here that day.
Oh, okay. Well, then it wasn't Zane. I don't know who won. So this is our scoreboard right now. Zane and Nick are tied at 3. Steve has 1. Audience has 1. Alden and guest have 0. Round 1. I misspelled it. Improbably mission. Okay, hang on. I always forget to pull up the slides on my end so that I can see the answer. Just give me one quick second here. Almost there. There we go. All right. Let's get this thing underway. Who directed the first Mission Impossible film released in 1996? Steven.
Jerry Bruckheimer.
Wrong. Zane, you got a guess? Go.
Michael Bay.
No, these were good movies. Come on. Give me a break. It's Brian De Palma. I have a feeling that y'all are going to get 0 of this first round correct.
Well, I have said multiple times on this show that movies are my weakest category of trivia.
I know.
So.
I'm excited. This first round is all about Mission Impossible since that came out this week and was an awesome movie. All right. Which actor has appeared in all of the Mission Impossible films alongside Tom Cruise? Come on, y'all. You can get this.
I have never seen a single Mission Impossible movie.
Oh, my gosh. Zane.
I've seen them all, but I don't know this guy's name.
Can you describe him? If you describe him, I'll give you the points.
Is it he's the British dude that's like the unwitting sidekick that's always saying, this is a bad idea.
No.
Okay.
It is not Simon Pegg.
Okay.
Ving Rhames. Big jacked black dude. Come on.
Yep.
Luther Strickle. All right. Next question. What is the name of the secret organization Ethan Hunt works for? Are you kidding me? Steven, go.
Is it MI5?
No. Zane, you're not going to get this?
The NSA.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. 2/3 of the name is in the title. Zane.
MI6.
No. Steven, you get one more guess.
2/3 of the name is in the title. I'm really leaning on this hint here.
Yeah, you should. It's in the title of the movie, is what I'm referring to.
Well, that's why I said MI6, because Mission Impossible is MI.
True. 5, 4, 3,
I don't know.
2, 1. Robert got it. The Mission Impossible Force.
Oh.
Yeah, I forgot to do a daggum scoreboard too. Here we go. Scoreboard.
See, I thought I was fighting for second place now, but the audience is giving me a run here.
Yeah, the audience actually might win this one. Audience gets 1 point. Good job, audience. Next question. What is the code name given to Tom Cruise's character, Ethan Hunt? Zane.
Tom.
All right, it's going to be open to both of y'all again. I'm going to give you a hint. Think military jargon.
I'll go Eagle 1.
Wrong, but close. Zane?
Hawk. I have literally no idea.
No. It is Alpha 1.
This is some really good content we have right now.
Oh, yeah.
It's people like to see people fail, so this is actually pretty good content.
I've gotten good at that in trivia lately.
Which actor played the character of Owen Davian, the main antagonist in Mission Impossible 3? I'll give you a hint. This actor died in 2014.
Died in 2014.
Too young, I would say. Zane.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Ding, ding, ding.
Oh,
Yes.
How
See,
about that?
I was leaning toward Gandalf, but then you said died too young, and I was like, wait a second.
Hannah says Jack Black. That's Jack Black's ugly cousin. Or no, he is Philip Seymour Hoffman's ugly cousin. Because Philip Seymour Hoffman was a good-looking dude. What is the name of the deadly virus that Ethan Hunt must retrieve in Mission Impossible 2? Zane.
monkeypox.
Hannah said, go ahead, Steve.
Ebola.
No, I'm not sure. I don't even know if this is a real virus.
Oh, is it just some alphanumeric crap?
No, it's a word. It's a word that you should know. Oh, the audience gets it. Chimera.
Ah.
Yeah.
SARS-CoV-2.
Yes, SARS-CoV-2, exactly. Gosh, the audience is crushing it tonight so far, y'all. Which film features the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world at the time? Steven.
Mission Impossible 5.
Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. You are correct.
It's
Steven.
still the tallest building in the world. It's strange that ChatGPT felt the need to clarify that.
Nope, I clarified it because who knows when somebody's going to play back this awesome episode.
This is some evergreen stuff we've got here.
Who played the character of Ethan Hunt's wife, Julia, in the films? She's a medium-known actress. She would be honestly, she'd be hard for almost anybody to get besides somebody who's obsessed with movies. She's a toughie. She was in. I'll give you hints. She was in the show True Detective. She played Woody Harrelson's wife. It is not Sarah Silverman. All right, the audience got it. Michelle Mana. Well, the audience got most of it. It's Michelle Monaghan.
Ah, there we go. I was going to say Amy Schumer.
That would be a terrible choice. All right, question number 9. Which installment was directed by J.J. Abrams? Zane.
Mission Impossible 7. I don't know.
Wrong. Steve.
It's the third one, right? The one with Metallica on the soundtrack?
You got it.
Yes!
All right. That's so funny that you referenced it based on Metallica. That is hilarious.
I learned that from TRL, actually.
What is the title of the second film in the franchise released in 2000? Zane.
Mission Impossible 2.
Damn it.
Nailed it. You got that one right. Good job. All right. After one round, it is audience with 3, Zane with 2, Steve with 2. So it's a tight race.
Coming for that second place spot.
All right, round 2, Joe Schmo. These are 2 points apiece. These are all about the Joe Rogan experience. What is Joe Rogan's full name? Zane.
Joseph Rogan.
I was going to say the same thing.
I'm not giving y'all that point. That is absurd. All right, what is Joe Rogan's middle name? Zane.
Joseph Fear Factor Rogan.
It is completely incorrect. Steven, you got a guess?
It's going to be something old school. I mean, this guy's like in his late 50s, so it's going to be
Go
like Eugene.
look that shit up, Jamie Rogan.
I'm going to go with Eugene. How about that?
You're all wrong. The audience has 5 seconds to say the right answer. 4, 3,
Joe Ivermectin Rogan.
1. Oh, they got it right at the buzzer. It is Joseph James Rogan. Good job, audience. Oh, shoot. Oh, no. Dadgummit. There we go. Sorry, y'all. That was my bad. Almost knocked my mouse clear off my desk. And I almost did it again. Oh my gosh.
What's
There
in
we
that
go.
water bottle?
Not water. In which year did the Joe Rogan Experience first premiere? Zane.
2014.
Wrong. Steven.
2012.
Wrong. It's back open to both of y'all. You get one more guess apiece before Zane.
2015.
Nope.
2011.
Nope. Matt already guessed that. It is wrong. 2009.
Wow.
He has been at it for 14 years. This is year number 15. How crazy is that? I mean, he just did episode number 2000. Robert got it right after the buzzer. Sorry, Robert. Doesn't count. Slide number question number 3. How many total hours of the podcast have been aired? Hang on. You both get to guess a number, and the closest one wins. Anybody in the audience, go ahead and put your numbers in. Steven, what's your number?
I'm going to go with 4,500.
Okay. Zane.
I'll say 6,000.
Okay. Let's see if I'm going to wait about 10 seconds for any guesses from the audience. Hannah says 78.32. Matt says 81.12. Robert says 62.50. Brian Allen says Tom Woods has 2,364 episodes. Rogan is weak. Perfect. Zane gets it correct. 5,833 hours.
You gave me a huge hint by telling me that there are 2,000 episodes because I just thought that the average was probably about 3 hours. So
You're not wrong. But yeah, that was a good way to do it. I mean, Steven's not that bright, so he didn't understand that.
Well, I did 2,000. I was thinking 2 hours, a little over 2 hours each.
Yeah, I mean, there are some that are an hour for sure, and there
were some that he was
like
not getting along with the guy that he cut off at like an hour.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're not wrong. All right, who was the guest on the longest episode to date? And I misspelled it on the slide. Steven.
Alex Jones.
No, but he is up there. He's like top 5 for sure. Zane.
Shoot. I'm trying to come up with a good guess, but I'm probably going to run out of time. Because I'm thinking maybe it was one of like the Francis Malone.
No.
Oh, Robert Malone. That's what I meant.
I know who you meant. You each get... Oh, Robert got it. Duncan Trussell. And I said Duncan Russell, but whatever. That was autocorrect. Yeah, Duncan Trussell. It was like 5 hours and 14 minutes. And I think they were high and drunk and stoned and all the words that you could use to describe someone who's intoxicated and inebriated.
Yeah, he's had some good ones with Brian Redband too.
Yeah. I love the ones with Duncan Trussell though, because they tend to dress up in ridiculous costumes.
He comes on as like an astronaut sometimes.
Yeah. Who has appeared the most times on the JRE minus fight companions? Steven.
Jamie.
Okay, that doesn't count. No.
Oh, dang it, man.
I'm not even counting that as your guess. You can have another guess.
Okay.
Zane.
Jordan Peterson.
No. I'll give you a hint now that both of y'all have answered. He's a fellow comedian. Zane.
Dave Smith.
No. This guy has appeared on the show 62 times.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah. 62
Joey
times.
Diaz?
No, but that's a good guess. You got 10 seconds. The silence is palpable.
It's not Burnt Chrysler, is it?
No, it's not. is Mr. Ari Shafir.
Oh.
Yeah, because he's on, he does a ton of solo ones. He was Rogan's buddy back in the day, so he was always on in the original ones. And then he does the Protect Our Parks ones, which are hysterical. Have y'all ever listened to those?
No.
Those are some of my favorite ones. Like, if I just want to laugh for 3 straight hours, I'll go listen to a Protect Our Parks episode. All right. After 2 rounds, audience has 5. Zane has 4. Steve has 2. Steve,
Yes.
you got nothing that time. Round 3, Oppenheimer. It's not about the movie. It's only about the man. Which scientific institution did he direct during the development of the atomic bomb? Zane.
So are you counting the Manhattan Project as an institution or
No. Nope. It's an institution. Steven.
OSI.
No. Zane.
Is it like just Los Alamos Research Laboratory? Yeah.
Oh,
You're darn right it is. Bravo. Let me put in your points here. Zane just took the lead, audience. Y'all got to get it together.
Take that, audience.
Which city was chosen as the site for the first controlled nuclear chain reaction led by Oppenheimer? Zane.
Chicago.
That is unbelievable. How did you know that?
The Chicago Pile experiment.
Wow. Sure. Yeah. That one. The one that everybody knows.
It was like in the basement of the University of Chicago somewhere.
Yeah, it's not
Don't quote me on
dangerous
that.
at all. Final question. This could put Steven tied with the audience, or it could just, make Zane the ultimate champion forever. In what year was he stripped of his security clearances due to concerns about his political associations? Zane.
I'll say 1946.
Wrong. Steven.
Hmm.
Yeah. Way to take
I'm gonna
your
go
time.
44.
No. Zane.
47.
Steven.
52.
No, you each get one more guess. That's it. Zane.
45.
Nope. Steven.
43.
You guys are killing me. 1954.
I was never going to say that.
Well,
So it was during McCarthyism?
it was during McCarthyism. All right. The final tally is Zane 10, audience 5, Steve with a whopping 2. 2 from the first round of random guesses that he just happened to know from movies. I guess he knows movies probably better than Zane does.
I knew it as it pertained to Metallica.
That
was that was half of my right answers.
Perfect. All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all for playing. Thank y'all, everybody in the audience, for chiming in with your answers. That was great. Y'all did a good job. And yes, Robert, you let everyone down. You just weren't quick enough. Yeah, I know there's a 20-second delay. That's what makes it more interesting. There's like 10 of y'all and, only one of each of these guys. So y'all get brain power of 10 people.
And Google, and I'm on a 2-beer delay.
You get a 10 to 15 second delay. It's not 20 seconds, Robert. I know it's not 20 seconds because y'all's messages appear about 10 seconds afterwards. Oh, Robert apparently owes everybody 1 Bitcoin. That's a high price to pay.
Who's going to forgive all this trivia debt, guys? I mean, you can't just expect them to pay it off.
All right. Let's see what our favorite rep has to say. Let me pull him up. And that was not facetious. He actually is our favorite rep. Mr. Thomas Massey.
In my remaining minute, I want to turn to another issue. George Hill, former FBI supervisory and intelligence analyst in the Boston field office, told us that the Bank of America, with no legal process, gave to the FBI gun purchase records with no geographical boundaries for anybody that was a Bank of America customer. Is that true?
Well, what I do know is that the number of business community partners all the time, including financial institutions, share information with us about possible criminal activity. And my understanding is that that's fully lawful. In the
Did you ask for that information?
In the specific instance that you're asking about, my understanding is that that information was shared with field offices for information only, but then recalled to avoid even the appearance of any kind of overreach. My understanding is that that's a fully lawful process.
Was there a warrant involved?
Again, my understanding is that the institution in question shared information with us, as happens all the time.
Did you request the information?
I can't speak to the specifics.
Okay, well, we've got an email where it says the FBI did give the search queries to Bank of America, and Bank of America responded to the FBI and gave over this information without a search warrant. Do you believe there's any limitation on your ability to obtain gun purchase data or purchase information for people who aren't suspects from banks without a warrant?
Well, now you're asking a legal question, which I would prefer to defer to the lawyers, since I'm not practicing as one right now, including the department. But what I will tell you is that my understanding is that information from business community partners across a wide variety of industries, including financial institutions, sharing information with us about possible criminal activity is something that is fully lawful under current federal law.
Maybe law.
Okay, so this was yesterday. The FBI basically admitting to taking bank records from Bank of America. The Bank of America just giving them to them. Just massively wide range of bank records of anybody who's purchased a firearm using Bank of America credit cards, debit cards, checks, that kind of thing.
Well, you see, any purchase of a firearm is possible criminal activity. So,
yeah, I mean, that is a really good point, Zane. If you're purchasing a firearm, you are potentially a criminal. So they have every right to send that information along to the FBI. I mean, that's Bank of America should take a really big hit for this. I don't know if they will, but if you're doing business with Bank of America, maybe it's time to rethink that. Also, just the fact that they were there when the Federal Reserve was born should also tell you something.
Well, and during the Obama years, you had the executive laughing about how they're going to make up all their losses from the economic downturn through all the fees they're going to hit their customers with.
Yep. I mean, they just got fined for that. They just got fined for opening accounts without customers' knowledge, for double charging
Fargo switch trick.
Yeah, for doubling fees, and all. There's one other thing, but I can't remember what. And yeah, you're right. Wells Fargo isn't much better. Thank God we don't have to choose from those two. Thank God there's a ton of other things, like the Bank of Bitcoin, where you could go be your own bank. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the fact that the FBI and Bank of America just basically are working together to potentially prevent a possible crime, maybe sometime in the future, of the millions of people who buy weapons?
Well, since we just got off of a topic of like Tom Cruise movies, we could go to, was it Minority Report, where they had the future detectors?
Yeah. Yes, it was.
So it's, the pre-crime division, all that kind of stuff. So that's really what it's kind of moving towards. And then to kind of build on the previous episode we did about Edward Snowden, we know the telecom industry has been over collaborating with law enforcement. So AT&T, Verizon with their super cookies, your Amazon Echo device, your Ring doorbell camera, all these guys got to do is show a badge, and they give way more than they should even be allowed to. Really, it's information that's technically not theirs. It happens to be on their servers, but it's your information, and they just overly share it just because a nice man with a badge asked me. Once you get into the institutional level, you mentioned somebody like Bank of America. They were there at the inception of the Federal Reserve Bank, so they've got skeletons in their closet, man. I mean, like, they've been around for any institution of that size that's been around for over 100 years, you've got some dirty secrets, and all the government has to do is say, "Hey, remember that time you did this? You know, we could leak that, or you could just tell me who bought a firearm with your account."
Yeah. I mean, it's very similar to what they did with Facebook or Twitter, and maybe I guess it was Facebook and Twitter maybe during the election, was just like, tell them things were about to happen and make sure it doesn't come out on the social media network. And they did that with the Hunter Biden laptop story and a whole bunch of other things. And they'll do it. They'll just do the bidding of the federal government, because they need the help of the federal government to keep growing and keep, getting money.
It's a mafia shakedown. If your options are do what the government tells you to, or risk having the government come after you and try and destroy your business if you're Facebook or Twitter, or, not bail you out the next time you get in a pickle if you're a bank, then the government's got you right in their pocket. But going back to the clip, one of the foundational assumptions of democracy even is that the people that you have in charge of these various organizations are accountable to you and have to answer the questions that your representatives put to them. But everybody knows that it's a complete farce when these FBI and CIA people go before Congress, because they'll go there for 2 hours and everybody knows they're not going to say anything, and they never say anything. And then people pretend, that we live in a democracy because they're accountable to the people. Does that clip look like accountability to you?
To my understanding, it doesn't seem like it. No. How many times can one person say "to my understanding" while he's appearing before Congress? Like, just that phrase is idiotic. Like, they're just qualifying every single thing they say, and all you have to do is keep somebody in the dark about certain things, and have them go appear before Congress. Like, you could have a whole mess of people who don't know the specifics of anything that's happening within an organization, and they could be the people who are in the highest positions that then go testify before Congress and legitimately can't say anything because they don't know anything, but they know that they're there to prevent bad things from happening to their organization.
This might be a bit of a hot take, but I feel like Congress should have the power to compel executive agencies to give them straight answers to questions. And I'm not sure how in practice that would work.
Torture.
Because
you have a judge issue a warrant. I mean, that's right. The 3 co-equal branches. I mean, there would have to be some kind of, there'd be a judge on your side saying, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're never going to get one, because they'll never cough it up.
Yeah. Well, and the president can be arrested. The Senate Sergeant at Arms can arrest him. Because I know, because Sean Hannity ranted on about it for about 3 years while Obama was in office. There were so many books written about it, of all these impeachable offenses and this, that, and the other. But the most slam dunk one was Obama serving on the UN Security Council without Congress's approval. So it's pretty clear in the Constitution you can't hold 2 offices at the same time. Without congressional approval. Anyways.
I feel like a really good
I'm with you. Congress should have the power to compel, because otherwise you get these athletes like, were you using steroids? And he's like, of course I was. Why am I here?
Right. Yeah, I feel like a really good way to torture somebody into doing it would just be to like put them in a room by themselves with William Hung and have him sing for them for like hours. I think that would do it. Like that would drive me insane. Or just have somebody in there just eating chips without closing their mouth for like 2 straight hours.
I think the word for that is sonic interrogation.
I'm a fan. I like this. Doesn't seem to like inflict actual pain. Like, you could get me to confess to a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't do just by eating cereal in front of me. It is my least favorite sound on earth. My brother's watching right now, and he knows it. And he eats like a sloppy dog when he eats cereal. It's just like, it is terrible. All right, y'all. Next topic, unless we want to talk about this some more. Let's talk about how terrible Bank of America is. We could just talk about that for the rest of the time. But
I'm kind of with Zane though. Like it's nauseating to see so many people being brought up with with credible issues, just credible evidence against them, and they get to, just because they're in front of Congress, they're like, got no authority here. What are you going to do? Especially when it's somebody from the executive side of things. Like I'm the one that enforces this stuff. What do you want to know? I'm going to investigate myself and find nothing wrong. Screw off.
I mean, the same thing happened with Ron Paul and Fauci, or Rand Paul and Fauci. Like, he would just interrogate him. Fauci would give a whole bunch of non-answers, and then he would get off because he's not accountable to anybody. It doesn't make any
and then
sense.
the cash for clunkers thing. People that weren't actually destroying the cars that they should have been destroying. And I think who's the guy from California? Daryl Issa. He was the big stud. Pre Jim Jordan. And he was just grilling folks, and that was the one thing that so many people were sending me clips of that in my email. Oh, listen to Daryl Issa grill this guy. I'm like, okay, great. He scored some logic points, but nothing's going to happen. Yep, it's wild seeing this kind of stuff, and especially when you get into financial crimes like what Bank of America is doing. I remember Barney Frank. Y'all remember Barney Frank when he retired? So he was doing the Dodd-Frank bill. He was trying to shove that thing through, and it was a pile of crap, and everybody knew it. And then all of a sudden, he was like, "Hey, you remember those parties? With those underage boys at my house? Y'all were there too. I'll name names. Pass this bill and let me retire." And they were like, "Oh yeah, pass the bill, let him retire."
And this is why, if you're going to have a government, it's important that people of character are the ones in there.
Exactly. It's also important that it's not a giant government with thousands of employees.
Thousands? I'd gladly take thousands.
Are there not thousands?
There are millions.
I'm talking about the people who can make decisions for us.
There's millions of people with access to classified information.
But that's not the same thing. Access to classified information doesn't mean jack. If I called a few people, I don't necessarily think that's true. Just because you have access to information, like if you're the janitor of like Enron, you have access to certain information, but you can't make anything happen. I don't know. Just because you have access to something doesn't mean you're like necessarily have the power to tell people what to do or to do things. But
so the last time I checked the stat, it was like 2 or 3 million government employees. But if you're talking about who are the actual like Congress people, I actually think it would probably be better to drastically increase the size of Congress, because right now each person in the House of Representatives represents somewhere in the ballpark of 800,000 people. In no way can you really say that they're accountable to anyone if you're accountable to that many people. Like the original back in like right when the U.S. was founded in like the 1790s, each representative represented only 30,000 people. And for the first century or so of the U.S.'s existence, they would steadily add representatives as the population increased, but we haven't added any more for a long time. And so the amount of people per representative has just ballooned, which has made it a lot easier for people to just kind of, has made it a lot easier for congressmen to ignore them. Because like if you are only representing 30,000 people, you can get a sizable amount of those people together and try to pressure your congressperson to do something.
Yeah, it's fair.
Ryan's right. Like in New Hampshire, the New Hampshire House of Representatives. So New Hampshire has like 1.3 million people in it. Their House of Representatives has 400 people in it. That's a ratio of one representative for every like 4,000 people. That's
not bad.
A real representative.
Talk about reaching out and touching someone. That's
better. That's much better.
That's a little bit of control. So how do you feel about senators being appointed by the governor rather than elected by the citizens?
So before I think it was the 17th Amendment that brought in direct election of senators, where it had been like the state House and Senate that had elected them. I think that the old way was really better, because first of all, it gave the states themselves a direct interest in the federal government. So if you have an entire house of the federal government whose entire job is to jealously guard the powers that the states believe that they have, that's, pitting two states against each other, which can be advantageous for individual liberty, as opposed to only having one ginormous government that's essentially accountable to nobody, because you can't be accountable to 5 million voters all at the same time. And it also makes it a lot easier, for the small interest to just come in and influence a senator, because these lobbyists can come in if they only have one senator to deal with, who's not going to be talking to all 5 million of their constituents. They can be very easy to sway. Whereas if the senator is instead elected by the state House or Senate, who presumably knows who they would be electing a lot better, and have all these people have personal relationships to the people that they're electing, they would be a lot harder to sway by a few big donors or lobbyists.
Exactly. Yeah, and just look here in Georgia. You got the Oshat, John Ossoff. There's no way he's accountable. Like the same thing with David Perdue. I mean, does he even live here? Holy crap! Like, his relatives couldn't even find him come election time. So it's crazy to think how many people they actually allegedly represent. There's no way that you can most popularly represent all those opinions at the same time.
Right. Yeah, that is interesting. Let's see. Tim says we have government of all levels that give no shits about most of their constituents. Well, you're not wrong about that.
Yeah.
Although again, at the local and kind of state level, depending on the situation, but especially the local level, I don't take it as a given that literally every single person in government is evil. I think that a lot of them are, but I think that it is logically consistent for somebody to get involved in government with good intentions. And especially at the local level, I feel like they can make decisions that are good.
They can,
right?
For sure.
Right.
But the farther up the ladder you are, the more insulated you are from anybody, and the fewer people you have opposing you, the more likely it is that you're going to turn evil.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Who was it that said that we have the stupid party and the evil party, and every now and then they get together and they pass something that's both stupid and evil, and we call that a bipartisan effort.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of people who get into government work just end up being like useful idiots, like just oblivious to what they're actually passing, oblivious to what their constituents actually want. They think they want something because they're thinking a certain way, but they don't actually go do the research or go talk to their constituents. And so they're either willingly ignorant or just, useful idiots.
And on some levels, it's because they actually desire power.
Some levels. Yeah.
Here around Atlanta, was it the mayor of South Fulton, or was it just one of the council members just got arrested on trespassing charges?
Trespassing?
Yeah, it was like robbery and trespassing charges or something like that. And it was just one of those power trip kind of things. Like, you can't tell me no. I run this city, I'm gonna come in here and take this. It was the mayor. There you go, Brian.
Says it was the mayor. That is hilarious.
And most places, that's the whole thing. The mayor is just a figurehead for some of these places. Unless you're like the mayor of a major city, like Atlanta, New York, something like that, you really don't matter. You're just the tie-breaking vote for the city council.
Right. There are some powers that the mayor does have. I mean, Shane utilizes that with his dadgummit. What's that? Helios initiative. Yeah, he utilizes a bunch of mayoral things that the mayor can do. So he's not completely just a figurehead, but I see your point. Like, he's definitely there just to break ties.
I mean, obviously in times of emergency or extra powers or circumstantial things, but day-to-day operations, he needs the approval of city council and various other departments to even leave the office.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that we keep saying he because only men can be mayors.
Absolutely.
That was established long ago, back in 1776.
Yes.
That's why America became great. You know, we have to make it great again.
Yes, you have to be a man. You have to own property. You have to be literate.
Exactly. All three of those things are crucial to the future of America. All right, we're going to go to one of my favorite Twitter personalities, Mr. Peter St. Onge.
Recently, Deutsche Bank released a new survey of professional investors saying that the vast majority expect interest rate hikes to cause more financial, quote, accidents, by which they mean financial markets crashing. Nearly all respondents expected more of these, with most thinking the accidents will be contained, in other words, bailed out, while 1 in 5 expect financial accidents that governments will fail to contain. Now, I'm not sure governments using endless stimulus and permanent bailouts to make banks and markets fragile and then going on to break them qualifies as accidents, but whatever they are, professional investors are expecting more of them. In fact, we've already seen storms in multiple countries around the world. The UK pound hit near third world levels of interest on government bonds last year, almost putting the pound below parity with the dollar and threatening to bankrupt some of Britain's largest pension funds. Meanwhile, the Japanese yen has plunged almost 30% in the past 18 months, forcing the central bank to buy up a majority of Japan's $10 trillion in government debt. Keep in mind, Japan's economy is about 5 times smaller than the U.S., so that's equivalent to over $50 trillion in federal debt in American terms, with most of that bought up by the central bank. Meanwhile, China is swimming in similar debt levels to Japan, raising fears of a Japan-style long depression, even in China.
All right, so the main thing I wanted to point out in that is that they're calling them economic accidents.
Yes, economic accidents. Yeah, like it's not, especially China, a command and control economy. Japan, they've pretty much been admitting that too. They are a command and control economy. They're capitalistic-ish.
Yeah,
but they're still command and control. So are we, but we get to shoot fireworks one day a year.
Fair. I mean, I do love that just printing endless money is called an economic accident. like, oh dang it, the printing press is still going. Dadgummit, stop! Like, how is that qualified as an accident? Who is buying this jargon? This is how people redefine language. They'll just say something is something new, and people will just be like, okay, well, I guess that's how it is now. And it's just a bunch of crock. Like, it is no accident that they printed the most amount of money ever printed in 2020. What was it, like 40% of all dollars on Earth were printed during 2020? Was that the stat?
2/3 of what's in circulation right now was printed in the last 18 months.
Oh my gosh! And they keep going. They're still printing money, and they're never. I mean, they can't stop. I mean, they're never going to stop, but they couldn't stop even if they wanted to.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. Zane.
There you go. Rothschilds to the top.
Yeah, it's just utterly painful that that they're trying to make this out to be something that we could have prevented.
We could have prevented it.
In 1912, we could have prevented.
Well, if we would have just obeyed harder, all of this would not be happening right now.
Yeah, if everybody
we
just
had
stayed in their houses,
more.
Right.
Yeah,
it would be cool if everybody in the U.S. had $1 million, Hannah.
But it's the same as no one having $1 million.
Well,
no, it's actually not quite the same, because it would essentially make all but the very richest people have the same level of wealth. So it would be good for, the ensuing economic chaos would be bad for everybody. But if you somehow manage to avoid that, it would be relatively better for poor people and relatively worse for upper middle class people, because all of them would pretty much be equalized by their new $1 million. And the only people that would have substantially more than that would be, the millionaires and billionaires.
Right.
There you go. Well, and once you do get to a certain level of wealth, there's not really a lot of disparity in what you can do, because So being 100 millionaire and being a billionaire, the only thing a billionaire can do that 100 millionaire can't?
What?
Own a sports team.
There you go.
That's it. I mean, other than that, you got all the leverage you need.
Yeah.
That's at that point you get the unlimited black card. You get the bottomless loans, whatever, because you've got enough collateral to put up to start the loan to say that you're good for that. So it's
and by Twitter.
Yeah, there you go. And by Twitter.
Yeah, you're definitely right that the amount of consumers goods that 100 millionaires buy compared to billionaires is very similar. And this sometimes leads people to believe, well, let's just tax the billionaires more because they don't need the money anyway. But that fails to take into consideration the form of the money that the billionaires and 100 millionaires have. Because
it's rarely income.
Yeah, so most of their wealth is tied up in the value of their company, which is worth that much because it's providing valuable goods and services to people, and they're keeping it invested in something that's making everybody else wealthier. Like the fact that Jeff Bezos is a billionaire is because Amazon is worth that much money because everybody benefits from having stuff shipped to their house in 8 hours for free. And so Jeff Bezos having a billionaire is helping you. It's not hurting you in any way, except when he uses his wealth to influence the government in ways that we don't like. Then it's a problem. But
yeah, there you go.
That aside,
or when his distribution center raises property taxes in the area that I live. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair too. We've got our favorite forum, the World Economic one, here up next.
And the one final note I will make is that if you think about the benefits of digital money, there are huge potential gains. It's not just about digital forms of physical currency. You can have programmability, units of central bank currency with expiry dates. You could have, as I argue in my book, a potentially better and some people might see it as a darker world where the government decides that units of central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that it deems less desirable, like, say, ammunition or drugs or pornography or something of the sort. And that is very powerful in terms of the use of a CBDC. And the one final...
So I know that was a little while ago, but yeah, CBDCs.
So getting into that, I've got to mention this because I saw this article today.
Sweet.
We love crypto. We respect it. We understand, blockchain is going to be fundamental for survival and commerce in the future. Ripple, XRP,
yep,
is not friggin' crypto. Okay, like there's tens of trillions of this crap already printed. Now, just because the guy put some up in escrow doesn't make it scarce.
No, not at all.
It's there. He owns all of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So there was a federal judge that just ruled this week that it's not necessarily a security. So because that was the whole thing. So they went and sued the SEC because the SEC was like, yo, you can't trade. You're a security. You didn't register with us as a security, and you're definitely not a currency. And they're like, yeah, we're not either of those. And so at that point, what are you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so many people were like celebrating that XRP like won this whole thing. And like,
oh, I made money. Don't get me wrong.
Well, fair enough.
But from an ideological perspective, like that's not all that is like, so now it's been ruled it's not money. It's not a security. So it's well documented, proven in court. They've argued it. They argued it. This was their stance that they're ripping you off.
Yeah. 52 billion in circulation, 100 billion total.
There you go.
Yep. It's absurd. Like the whole idea behind CBDCs, they're not, the thing that separates Bitcoin is that it doesn't have anybody in charge of it. And the thing that makes Ethereum and every single other crypto so dangerous is that it is at the whims of human beings. And so they're going to implement those same protocols into a CBDC, except make them far more strict and overwhelming, to the point where they're literally going to be able to determine everything, every single thing that you do with your money, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. And they're literally saying it in front of everybody's faces.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not even hidden, but no one, I don't know why people think that that this is like a conspiracy theory, or that that we're crazy for thinking this, because there are so many people that just write this off and will just be like, well, that's never going to happen, because it just like, they have our best interest at heart, and like, it's just how it's going to be in the future. Like, it's just going to be a digital dollar. I don't, there's something really evil in the implementation of a CBDC, and it's going to be, have you noticed that people have stopped talking about it for like the past 2 months?
Yeah.
Because it was a massive deal for about a month and a half, and then it just disappeared.
Right.
About the same time the Nord Stream pipeline exploded.
Absolutely, because you had your Alex Joneses and your Blaze TVs, and all your conservative outlets shining the light on this stuff. Klaus Schwab's trying to feed us bugs and give us fake money, and yes, he is doing those things, but it's for some reason when like the Fox News types lean into some things like that, they do it so hard, so fast, it just sucks the oxygen out of the room, and like even though it's really an issue, it makes people stop caring about that crap after like 2 weeks. And then they get to do it anyways.
Yeah. No, you're exactly
so
right.
tired of it.
And Brian, the day that you're in office is the day that I'll believe that. Okay.
Amen.
Yeah, it's just going to be a nightmare. And like, it's astounding to me that they can just be saying these things wide open in public, and people will applaud them and listen to them and be like, yeah, this sounds like a good idea. Like, we should totally do this. We should, like, everybody get on board. Here we go. Or yeah, exactly. Or distract with aliens. Yeah, they do a whole bunch of crap to distract us from things like this, because no one's bringing this up, because this World Economic Forum happened months ago. And this was just a clip that I found the other day, and I hadn't seen it before. But it's just, he's not the only one that has said that at the World Economic Forum or elsewhere, for that matter. Like,
and consortiums of this type have been meeting since the early 70s.
That's a good the day that Brian's in office is the day that pigs fly and cats and dogs live together in peace.
There we go. So we got Brian and Zane here. So when was the Logan Act passed?
Jeez, I feel like that was like,
just get the decade right. I don't need the exact year.
This isn't trivia.
I feel like it's really old, like 1790s or something.
Okay, good deal. So, yeah, you got the Trilateral Commission that was formed in the early 70s. Jimmy Carter is credited with that, but it was really Walter Mondale. And you got, David Rockefeller, Zbigniew Brzezinski. These guys spawned this thing, and Barry Goldwater was really sounding the alarm on that before they even pulled the trigger on it. And no one did anything about that. And then you got the Bilderbergs, 1799. Thank you, Hannah. And you got the Bilderbergs, and then that they put it in your face enough. Like I just talked about, it just makes you not care about it, because you're just like, God, shut up and go away. I don't care. Yep. And then they just get to keep clawing their way up the hill.
And this relates back to everything, man. Like the deluge. I don't know if I've said this on this podcast. I probably have. I mean, I certainly have. This is what, like, our 80th hour of podcasting. I consider the internet as like the new age Tower of Babel, where back when the Tower of Babel happened, all of a sudden everybody spoke different languages and couldn't communicate with each other. Well, this is almost the exact same thing, where everybody can communicate with each other, but there's so much information out there that you have no idea what to believe, and you're just deluged with information, and there's no truth anymore. And so people getting repeatedly pounded with different bits of information, like the same bit of information, people want to completely ignore it after a while. This is what we talked about, the same thing with like Edward Snowden revealing all those documents, and like how it was a huge deal when that happened. But ever since then, when somebody has whistle blown and revealed documents, it's been like, okay, whatever. Like, yeah, we know the government's doing this. And so, like, the more people are exposed to something, the less they care about it, which is the opposite of what it should freaking be, man.
Yeah.
It's infuriating. People.
Yeah, it's that whole concept that Stalin brought to light was, one death, a single death is a tragedy. 100,000 deaths is a statistic.
Yep.
Because you just can't fathom something that grand has been allowed to fester that long.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're right, Tim. We were screwed since I met on Jekyll Island. We were also screwed before that. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
we were screwed when the Anti-Federalists lost.
All right. I think that we're going too far here.
We're screwed, Zane. It's all over. Pack your bags.
So if we're really saying that we were just completely screwed since 1913, and I'm not going to debate that because obviously that was really bad, and going back, but I mean, the U.S. in general, and especially over the past 100 years, I mean, it's just prosperity that would have been completely unimaginable to the vast majority of humans that have ever lived. So before we get too black-pilled, government can get really big and really bad, and human society as a whole can still do well and even flourish under those conditions. But yes, people are very hard to convince, even when we want to say, why aren't you listening to us? We're so clearly right. And that's kind of why I am interested in these projects like the Free State Project, Free Cities, things that don't depend on convincing everybody to suddenly become libertarian, because that's not going to happen. All we need is to have a society where libertarians can be libertarians and everybody else can live the way that they're going to live. And if people get inspired by our example, that's probably the best way to convince them. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm not really concerned so much about does everybody else have freedom, because that's way too big of a...
He just cut out mid-sentence.
Oh no!
I care about.
Okay.
I'm concerned about how can I and the people that I care about live the lives that we want to live, and hopefully that example would inspire other people to also desire freedom.
Dude, this is exactly what I've been trying to describe to my friends who are not libertarians, because as an anarchist or an ANCAP or whatever, I know that the world is never going to be an anarchist world, but I want the ability to go start my own anarchist community that has nothing to do with the rest of the world, that doesn't abide by the laws of the rest of the world, that has our own thing going. And it's crazy how many of them resist the concept of me being able to go start my own thing by saying, yeah, but you're already in this community and like, this is where you are. And the excuses they make for me not being allowed to do that are pretty outrageous at times. And
there you go.
It's
well, I don't want to say you're close enough. I was about to say you're close enough, but not really. But the Clive and Bundy thing, the dude had an armed standoff with the BLM, and he was like, listen, my land rights to this area predate your agency. And he produced proof, and they were like, yeah, but still, we're gonna block you anyways. Killed his son. Got drone footage of his son being murdered at a illegitimate traffic stop. It's just crap. And when I was going through school for surveying, I mentioned the Clive and Bundy standoff in one of my classes, and the guy was like, contact me separately for this class. If you put another post like that in this forum, you're kicked out of this class. And that was 2 days after I made a flat earth joke, and he told me I was going to be kicked out too. So
just a troublemaker, Steven.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead, Zane.
Yeah, I mean, I realize that some of what I just said might be construed by some to say that I don't think that like libertarian activism is useful, and that's very much not true. I think it's very useful in kind of us consolidating where are the libertarians and how do we reach out to people that truly are libertarian but just didn't realize that there's an organized movement of them. But it is sometimes very fashionable to make claims that, oh, many people are libertarian, they just don't know it yet. And I don't think that's true. I think there are some people like that. I don't think that there are as many as some libertarians say that there are. Because I think that a lot of people either think that it's good that some people should rule over others, or they want to be the rulers, or they like what the rulers are doing, so they're okay with it.
Or,
Yeah.
the neoconservatives of the day, they find out you're a libertarian or minarchist or ANCAP or any of that. Yeah, I like freedom too, man. As long as it's my kind, I'll get along with you as long as you're okay with, hey, let's go take out some of those people over there. Like their freedom is hiding under a rock in the desert.
Yeah, they sure do love their freedom to bomb Iraq.
Absolutely. Which really, if we were so concerned with human rights violations, why are we not in Eritrea right now? Okay, which makes North Korea look like Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
it's just
we wanted to have somebody on who knew more in depth about that whole situation, and I haven't found anybody yet. So hopefully we'll have somebody on in the next few episodes that can really dive into what's happening over there, because it's an abomination.
It's absolutely horrible, and has been our entire lives.
Yes. Yeah. You're 100% correct. Well, let's move away from government stuff and go into like conspiracies.
Oh, hey.
Oh, no.
Let's see.
Smithsonian denies it to this day, yet they funded
There we go. Refresh.
a cave found in the Grand Canyon that predated Native Americans, and in fact looked like they came from Egypt, and the Smithsonian denies it to this day, yet they funded the expedition.
What?
Yes. So 1908, this explorer, he wanted to go to the Grand Canyon to look for gold. He was going down one of the rivers and saw a mineral deposit about 2,000 feet up, went up there, and he saw some bushes or whatever, and he pushed the bushes aside, and it was a staircase that led up to clearly a man-made cave.
Yeah.
He walked in there and immediately was like, what am I looking at? Because it looked like there was hieroglyphics all on the walls, and it was huge. And so he took some pictures and then went to the Smithsonian and was like, can you fund me? We'll get a team out there to see what this is. So they went out there, and it was basically an underground city. It would have housed like 50,000 people.
What?
The natives in that region, they talked about how they weren't the first people on the land, and that there was people actually before them. Those people were taught by the star people how to make weapons, how to do all this. He said the technology far surpassed what Native Americans had.
Yeah.
Like they had actual weaponry, swords, all this stuff. There's this whole theory that the mainstream archaeology, the Smithsonian, they cover up stories like this because it goes against the narrative that they've been teaching since being founded.
It's being covered up by Big Rock.
Well, what do you think about that, Stephen? I mean, this seems right up your alley.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out the exact tribe, but this goes into some of the Indian tribes that talk about stargates. I'm trying to remember. Oh gosh, I'm going to get it wrong. So one is it the Zunis? I think they actually have a written record that goes back 5,000-6,000 years.
Okay,
something crazy. I may be wrong on the tribe. The Zuni may be an animist tribe in Africa, but there's around the Grand Canyon area, in North American Southwest. They actually have tales of stargates of some of their tribal elders. The sky opens up, and then they walk into a portal in the sky, and they're just gone. And the Bible kind of corroborates the stuff. In Enoch, because Enoch didn't really die. He just he boarded a chariot and flew off into the sky. Yeah. So it's really interesting. And so you're getting into the Graham Hancock kind of stuff. There's an entire ancestral lineage that's been fractured. There's a gap in the Goonies.
At the entrance to the cave, there was an elaborate Rube Goldberg machine.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I don't know, all the Graham Hancock stuff. I watched his documentary series on Netflix, and I've watched a bunch of his Rogan episodes. The dude makes some compelling arguments for there being civilizations and then wiped out by meteors, comet shower, something like that.
Something. There's just this gap of thousands of years.
Yeah.
And it was the Zunis. They were the precursors to the Hopis, and then later the Pueblos.
Okay. Well, did you know anything about this cave that they're talking about there?
I didn't know about this one specifically, but I did know that the Zunis have written records, like I said, that go back 5,000-6,000 years, and they talk about Stargate kind of stuff of their elders just kind of communicate with people that are not from this world, and they just walk off into this portal and they're gone.
All right.
And there's so many written. There's what's this book? The Peacemaker and the Key of Life. It talks about so there's a star. It's in the Pleiades formation called Tula. A lot of Indians have records of that. What are the ones around? What's the Butte thing in Wyoming? It was in
Devil's Tower.
Thank you. It was in that Steven Spielberg movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The Indian tribe around that area, they have a record of just saying that their tribal elders were communicating with people off planet, and then all of a sudden they went to this star called Tula, is what they called it. They attained a certain level of enlightenment, and then they just kind of teleported off planet. But you go back to, you use Kepler's model, and you go back to the time that they have this written record, and humans didn't have the capability to even see this star in that time period. But they have a map of it drawn. So how did that happen?
Man, all that is fascinating. Let's get to the conspiracy part of this. The Smithsonian covering it up.
We know that's been happening. So you got the Lovelock Caves. That was one I saw on Joe Rogan. If we're going to do a throwback here. They've been doing it since they existed. That's what they do. You find credible stuff. They come in, they take all the actual evidence, and then they take control of the narrative.
They did that literally in the Graham Hancock series. Like they wouldn't let him go into Serpent Mound in Ohio because he was Graham Hancock. Yeah. Like that's what drives me most crazy, because the guy who owns that land is a Christian, and he says it like it's like anti-Christianity, basically, to think otherwise. Think that there was a civilization more than 5,000 years ago. And that's what drives me nuts about people who shut down arguments, is like, if you actually believe in your argument and you believe that it's strong and you believe that it is the truth, you should be able to back that thing up 100%. And not allowing any dissent is like just essentially a dictatorship. Like, you're just shutting down any arguments whatsoever, and you're refusing to grow as a human being.
Now getting into that kind of stuff too, the kind of prehistoric, I guess, as we're told, through government schools, all these civilizations that existed. So you got the Piri Reis maps. There was an explorer, Piri Reis, that it was his job to map what is Antarctica, and he's got maps drawing Antarctica as green land and he's got journals detailing this stuff. Humans 12 to 14 feet tall. More than twice the size of the average man at the time was how he described it. And there's even sketches drawn of people jabbing a rapier into one of these guys' skulls, which rapier was a little over 2.5 feet long. You're jamming it into the guy's eyeball, and it doesn't reach the back of his skull. Jeez. So they're that big.
Well, speaking of that, let's go into a deeper conspiracy theory, a more sketchy one, one that is less believable. But as soon as you said giants, it literally led into this one. So here we go.
All right.
Andrew was a normal TikToker until he discovered a giant-looking creature in the mountains. The figure looked abnormally large, so he posted it on TikTok and wanted to keep investigating what it was. However, on his way to the mountain, he was allegedly stopped by a CIA agent who made him turn around even though it was a public road.
Road's closed. Turn around.
Really?
He tried again the very next day, but on his way, he saw helicopters extracting something from the very location he spotted the giant. Andrew began growing extra suspicious and decided to go look at night where he hopefully wouldn't be spotted. And again, the same CIA agent was waiting for him and told him to turn back once more. By the time that Andrew posted his next video, things would never be the same. He noticed that the CIA agent in the same car was parked outside of his house and had began stalking him. And then when he goes to confront them, they speed off, which is promptly followed by a confession from Andrew where he admits all of the videos of the giant are fake and he orchestrated the whole thing for attention.
All the videos that I posted were scripted, they're just fake.
This video came as a shock to viewers, and eerily he's seen glancing at someone off screen as if he's reading a script. Andrew then posts an 8-second video saying you'll never see me again and hasn't posted on his account since. It's been over 1 year.
I just took a vacation in Cherry Log, Georgia, which is home to the Sasquatch Museum.
Nice.
Yeah. So
nice. Obviously, that's a less credible video. I mean, anything that has like that quick of cuts and like does all that information without actually giving you any proof of anything is suspect. But the talk of giants led me right to that. So thank you.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But I was getting into the Peary Reese maps because this was, what was it, 2016, 2017, something like that. You had the Pope, John Kerry, all these, world leaders going to Antarctica for some reason. Like, why would you go to Antarctica? It was really weird. And then, what are they? It's like the southern tip of Argentina, I guess, they shove off of to go to Antarctica.
Yeah.
So they should have already been, 100 miles south of there, where it's already should be pretty cold. And these guys are posting Instagram videos. They're in shorts and short sleeves on the boat.
But they're really tough. They're tough guys.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, no. If you're tough, man, you can handle -30 in shorts and a t-shirt.
I'm not going full operation.
It's -30 in here right now. Like,
yeah,
that's how tough I am.
There you go. I'm not going full operation high jump on you, but I'm just saying, like, it was really weird because where that boat should have been latitudinally, they should not have been able to just stand out on the boat in shorts and short sleeves and just hang out.
All I'll say in as part of this all of this conspiracy talk is that it's sometimes easy to come up with evidence for things that don't turn out to be true. And when we think about how do we try to come up with the truth, both sides, or however many claims there are, all present their evidence. And so I'm probably, especially after the past 3 years, I am probably more open-minded towards people that would be considered conspiracy theorists than most people. But that doesn't negate the need to hear the opposite side, which is what's the evidence that there is no conspiracy and it is how we've thought that it has been. And the thing is that for a lot of these conspiracy theories, nobody spends their day like really trying to debunk all of these conspiracy theories. I mean, I'm sure there are some losers online that do, but nobody cares about them. So all of these kind of conspiracist TikTokers and podcasters can kind of say whatever they want and produce pieces of evidence that aren't necessarily false, but they use the pieces of evidence that that could have been. It's not like they have slam dunks. They have all these circumstantial evidence and things that for one reason or another could have been that way without the entire theory being true. And nobody's going to come along and say, well, actually, I have these 7 pieces of evidence that say that your conspiracy theory is total crap, because nobody's going to spend that kind of time debunking it.
I can't tell you how many documentaries I've watched on the Ark of the Covenant is here.
Right.
Here it is. And like their only proof is because the Ethiopians prepared their coffee a certain way on this mountain. And when they went there was 3 7-year-olds with AK-47s that asked them why they were there. And they were like, obviously they're guarding something.
Well, yeah, they're guarding the Ark with.
They're guarding their property
and children.
They hadn't seen a white person their whole life. Why are you here?
Leave it to Zane to ruin conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I know. I should just stop saying anything. I just want to clarify that being a libertarian does not make you have to be conspiracy theorist. There is nothing inherently wrong with being a conspiracy theorist as long as you don't project an amount of confidence that's way out of proportion with the strength of the evidence that you actually have.
But being able to discern truth counter to the approved government narrative will have you labeled as a conspiracy theorist.
That's also true. So if CNN calls you a conspiracy theorist, I don't care. What I care about is if I think that you're being a conspiracy theorist with no good evidence. Like I've said stuff on this show that's got us kicked off YouTube. So I feel like I can kind of present some friendly criticism coming from a place that not coming from a place of we just need to be respectable all the time and only say the approved narratives, because obviously I don't believe that, but doing some friendly ombudsing of some other libertarians that I sometimes feel like are taking it places where it doesn't need to go.
Yeah, there you go.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah, and like I don't know, it's just it becomes easier and easier to believe in conspiracies when so many get proven true so quickly in 3 years. Like that's it makes it more fun to entertain them. And like I definitely everything that we just talked about, I don't know what's true or not. Like it's just interesting to entertain a different reality than what we've been told our entire lives. And so that's why I enjoy doing it. I'm not saying there's any truth in it. I'm saying,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're all good. Go.
Yeah, I mean, all the so-called conspiracies of the past 3 years, whether it be, all the COVID stuff or all the Ukraine stuff, like the reason why I believe it is because I've seen all of the evidence that says why the establishment narrative is a complete lie. And it's nothing but peer-reviewed literature and logic and sources from, trustworthy journalists. And so, and all of that is actually running counter to what the establishment, what CNN and MSNBC are all saying.
Absolutely. And that's why trust the science became the mantra, because it's peer reviewed. Oh, it's peer reviewed. Well, is it scientifically tested? When do we get away from the scientific model? When did we get away from, forming a hypothesis, establishing your variables, running it through a test, and analyzing it, and everyone doing that is qualified in that field? When did that go away? And it just became, this university said it, so I'm going to read their data and just say, obviously, you're going to come up with the same conclusion if you read their data sets. You need to do your own data sets. Obviously, you need to run your own experiments with the same variables to see if you come up with the same data sets. That is true peer-reviewed stuff, running it through the scientific method. But instead, everyone's just in lockstep because that's how you get funding.
Right. That's exactly right. Like when, we were going through COVID, I mean, there were so many trustworthy scientific sources that were saying, all these lockdowns are total BS. They don't do anything. But that wasn't the approved science. It wasn't the approved evidence, so you weren't allowed to talk about it, even though it was completely legit. When I see somebody with dreadlocks going on about how there's a Stargate at the bottom of a canyon, I mean, maybe it's true, but it feels not very trustworthy. And until I actually looked into it myself to see what the counter arguments would be, which granted I'm not going to do because I don't care. But
come on, Zane. Let's do some DMT about it, man.
I'm not going to accept that as evidence because it doesn't meet my threshold.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, we're into the just the funny clips from here on out. Just like 6 funny things. The first one's from Spike Cohen. It's our favorite vice president of all time, speaking about AI.
And I think the first part of this issue that should be articulated is AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning. And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine that will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process. And I think the first part of
she's our vice president. I mean, she's our vice president.
Okay, I'm gonna send you a clip, Jake. If you could play it, that would be great. This reminds me, her our vice president's speech there reminded me a lot of something that Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, said at some AI conference a couple of years ago.
Okay. All right, let's see what he's got. It's 18 minutes.
Wait. Okay, let me find a different one because there's.
Yeah, find the other one. Find the short one.
I'm going back to Tim Leslie's comment earlier. Nephilim. No, the giants are actually the Rephaim.
Rephaim.
Yeah, they were the Genesis 6. The sons of God saw the daughters of men. That whole thing.
Yeah,
that's how the giants came about.
Interesting.
The sons of God being the fallen angels.
Huh. All right.
All right. Try that one.
All right. Let me pull it up here. Copy link address. Yeah, 16 seconds. That's much better. Here we go. Let me get there.
Big data, machine learning, blockchain, artificial intelligence, digital manufacturing, big data analysis, quantum communication, and Internet of Things. R&D का था.
That was it. Said nothing of substance that entire time.
Modi's a G. He's got some pretty brutal practices. But as far as standing up for his people, that man is fantastic.
Well, this made me laugh. I don't know who shared it in the chat, but a gigantic fart derailed RFK Jr.'s New York City press dinner.
Yep.
If y'all haven't read this story, you got to go read it because that face had to have been exactly what he was feeling during that whole.
Man.
And it wasn't his fart; it was somebody else's fart.
Yeah, two guys start arguing at his press dinner, and then the argument they get in, one of the guys, as part of his rebuttal, farts on the other dude, or farts at him, anyways. And I laughed so hard I farted the first time I read this.
It's so funny. It's such a good read, and it's like 10-second read. Like you could read it in like 2 minutes. Yeah, absolute hilarity. The fact, I mean, I'm so glad that wasn't like. I don't know. Is it on camera? There was no camera. Like, there's no recording.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, that would have been hilarious. Man. All right. Next up is just a tweet. True story. Harvard Business School rejected me in 91. When I got the news, I checked to see if they'd cashed my $100 application fee check. They hadn't. So I did a stop payment. When they called trying to collect, I suggested they could learn a business lesson from this. I love that.
I am so glad the Supreme Court told Harvard, Yale, and Stanford they have to stop the Asian hate. I'm not saying this guy's Asian specifically, but I mean that's really what it was. There were Asian people that were coming in with perfect GPAs that are technically minorities that were being turned down from Harvard, Yale, Stanford, places like that. That because they didn't meet their minority quota.
Yep.
And so then these guys are like, bro, I am one. What are you talking about?
Yep. Oh, it's crazy. I'm so glad affirmative action is done. Affirmative action is what kept me out of the school of my choice.
Now, if we can just get it out of the employer, that's, oh man, because what was it? United Airlines said that they're going to start hiring minorities. They're making an effort to have more minority pilots. And it was like, in that statement, like you said, nothing about qualifications, so, like that makes me feel good hearing that. Sure. But like, have they flown enough? Did they meet the required hours? Do they have the certificate saying that they've done this stuff?
Right. 100%. All right. Next up is.
You only get to be a minority if you're not doing well, because it has to fit into their, Marxist class analysis on the basis of race, where they'll lump you into the oppressed class if it's politically convenient for them. But then if you happen to be a minority but you're succeeding, then that just means that you're part of the white supremacist society. So what's even funnier is when they have it both ways with the same ethnic group. Like when out of one side of their mouth they say hashtag stop Asian hate, but then out of the other side they're like, but you can't go to Harvard.
Yeah, you got a perfect GPA. You've already got 5 licensed attorneys vouching for you, but we're not going to let you in, even though you're totally self-funded.
Yep.
That's wild.
All right, next
and
up
then if we're all citizens of the world, on a global scale, whites are the minority.
True.
So
can I call myself a minority from here on out?
Sure. See how that goes.
Okay. I definitely won't get tons and tons of hate.
Right.
Do y'all want a terrifying glimpse into our future?
No.
Yes.
Here we go. This device lets a plant control a machete by utilizing electrical noises in its leaves.
Oh, I've seen that. Yes, that's what. So when you cut grass and that smell afterward.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a distress signal. Like your lawn is screaming in pain, basically, and it's calling.
That smells so good, though. That's
right.
Great.
Exactly. Napalm has a certain smell to it, or whatever they said in Apocalypse Now. The smell of napalm in the morning.
There we go.
But the smell of fresh cut grass is a defense mechanism that your grass has that calls insects and other things in there to protect it and help it propagate again.
So what you're saying is that this plant having a machete is actually it exercising self-ownership and defending itself.
There we go.
Seems like it.
And I would call attention again to the tree that owns itself near Athens, Georgia.
The tree that owns itself. That was a great one.
That we should arm it with machetes. or we've got the live oak in Thomasville, Georgia. This thing's, I think, a couple hundred years old. It's beautiful. It's a huge tree.
Just put machetes on all
let's arm that
plants
thing
that
with
are old.
machetes.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of this. This sounds like a great idea. All right, here's one from Libertarian Party official. Let me refresh.
Oh, I saw this one. This one's good.
Scotland, Albania, Ireland, Russia, Oman, Bulgaria, Saudi Arabia, Hungary, Cyprus, Iraq, and Iran. There's Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, both Yemen, Kuwait, and Bahrain. The Netherlands, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Portugal, France, England, Denmark, and Spain.
Yeah, the tag is kid. Where do taxes go? Libertarian parent. All of those places.
I've also seen it list all the countries where communism does not work.
That's a good one too. That's a good one too.
Yeah.
I've got 2 more, and they're just dumb, funny ones. So let's go. These are facts that hurt your brain.
Facts that hurt your brain. 2 people born in separate time zones can be born at the same moment but have different birthdays. Beef jerky is basically a meat raisin. When you clean out your vacuum cleaner, you become a vacuum cleaner. If I punch myself in the face and it hurts, does that make me weak or strong? Your stomach thinks all potatoes are mashed. If people on a planet 65 million light years away looked at Earth, they would see dinosaurs. Why do people say tuna fish when they don't say beef mammals or chicken bird? When people do not operate heavy machinery, they're probably referring to cars. But my mind always goes straight to a forklift. And finally, whenever you buy and eat a half chicken, you're secretly sharing a meal with a stranger.
Oh man, that reminds me of there was a meme that I saw that had a Subaru Outback in the parking lot of an Outback steakhouse, and it was like an Outback parked Outback at an Outback.
That's good.
Or the tow truck towing a tow truck. I've actually seen that going down the interstate, and I'm like, damn, someone's having a bad day.
Yeah, I loved the one that was Now I just forgot it. Which one was I laughing at? Oh, the chicken bird or the beef mammal.
Yes.
We call
I'm
it tuna
saying
fish.
that from now on.
Yeah, like why do we call it tuna fish? That makes no sense. Just call it tuna. I don't understand. But now I'm going to call everything beef mammal, which is way funnier. And then I don't know if any of y'all have watched I Think You Should Leave. It's on it's on Netflix. It's basically a sketch comedy show that is put on by one of the most awkwardly hilarious people I've ever seen in my life. But he's been in a bunch of memes recently, and this is Pets on the 4th of July.
I'm not seeing anything.
Either.
You've never seen this guy?
I don't see it.
You're not sharing anything.
Damn it.
Like, I don't see your screen.
That's annoying. Show. Okay, there we go.
Good night, Grumpy.
There we go. There we go.
Gonna kill me. That's real. That lives with us on Earth. What the fuck is this world? What the fuck? What the fuck? That's gonna kill me. That's real. That lives with us.
Oh man, that one is so funny. He had another funny one. Let me see if I can find it real quick because it is absolutely hysterical. I don't think I'm gonna be able to find it. That's all right. Hilarious. Yeah, if you haven't watched I Think You Should Leave, that is a show that I would recommend, especially if you've been drinking or are high, because it is hysterical. Well, y'all, that wraps it up for Liberty Libations number 33. Don't forget that Joe Rogan just spreads misinformation constantly, but it's only about economics. Everything else he does is pretty all right. Actually, not everything.
And Owen Benjamin has taught us that his name is really Toe Rogan because he looks like a big toe.
He does look like a big toe, as is displayed on our thumbnail for this episode. All right, y'all. Well, if you have any questions about the Libertarian Party of Georgia, if you ever want to come on this show, you can email me at podcast@lpgeorgia.com. I check that almost never, so good luck. You can also just tweet at me at the Jake Green or Peaceful Sea Productions. Yeah, if you have suggestions for stuff you want us to talk about, feel free. Send them our way. Yeah, do we have anything we need to promote, Stephen? Zane?
Not off the top of my head. I'll just LP Georgia. I mean, we got the Brush Rider speaking group. It's really good. I did a few of them last year, and they did me no help in trivia, but I do feel more confident speaking in groups. And Perfect. Then Osprey Shooting Solutions. This guy is amazing. From what I hear, I've met him in person. I've never shot with him, but he's a good dude. He's got a lot of good energy surrounding him. So I can tell he knows what he's talking about. He really knows his stuff and will train you properly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The Libertarian parties of Fulton and Cobb counties will be tabling at a gun show at Jim Miller Park in Marietta Saturday and Sunday. So if you're free and want to come say hi, please stop by.
If you're free and want to watch Zane buy his second gun, go by the gun show.
Yeah, hey, get you a Ruger 5.7. Those things are sweet. It's a pistol that shoots 5.7 millimeter rifle rounds. Oh my goodness, it is my favorite pistol by far.
Not the Chiappa Rhino?
I love the Chiappa, but the 5.7 is just so sweet.
Alden was out here this past week, and we shot a bunch. It was great. We shot a 100-year-old 22 that he had. It's a old pump octagon 22.
I've got a 100-year-old. I think it's a 30-30.
Nice.
I'm scared to even shoot it.
This thing wouldn't load the ammo properly from the cartridge because the ammo is made slightly differently than it used to be. And so we had to literally physically insert each bullet every single time into the tube. So
wow.
It was interesting to say the least, but he shot my 45-70, which he said he overbraced for it. So he, got a little bruise on his shoulder.
Oh yeah.
But there we go. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. We got Free Georgia podcast hopefully coming out this Tuesday. I've not found a guest for it yet. So if y'all have suggestions, shoot me a tweet, shoot me an email, whatever. And then Liberty Libations again next Thursday night. We'll dadgummit. I normally have it all lined up, ready to click, and I didn't have it this time. We'll see you next week, folks. Peace.